play in the NHL, play under those big bright lights. I wanna play in the NHL and dance with the ghosts tonight.
Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday night, December 17th. Welcome to TC Sports Talk. I'm Tyler. Chris is on the other side of the glass. We are rocking and rolling with our last episode of the year. And welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening, everyone. Good to see you again, T. What's this last episode of the year thing?
Well, because next week, the 24th, is Christmas Eve, and then after that, it's New Year's Eve on the 31st.
Oh, yeah, we kind of covered that, didn't we?
Yep.
Let's talk about that, though, like off air or whatever, and see if maybe we can, we'll figure something out, because got a little more time on our hands. Maybe we can do an in-game thing or something. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll figure something out. We'll put it on our socials for everyone, folks. We'll figure something out.
Yep.
So how was your week outside of the sports world, Chris? Everything go good?
Yep. Busy. I'm getting really imbued with the Christmas spirit, which is nice.
Listen to that Christmas music and everything, yeah?
Yeah, a little bit. I had a good run today. I had a buddy pop over. I hate saying unannounced because it sounds like it's not welcome, but he was in the neighborhood and he's like, "Hey, what's up?" And came over and I was cooking and popped on some Christmas music, had a nice catch up. And I'm like, yeah, that's what it's about. Just catching up with your friends and family. And so feel a little more Christmassy.
I agree with that. So yeah, no, my week was good. I had another long weekend. I had a couple days of work left here this week, and then I'm off for a bunch just to recharge and regroup. And, last night was kind of a letdown after my long weekend, but, it looked good Thursday, Saturday. It looked really good coming off those two wins. The big win in Minnesota after you said they never win in Minnesota, and I said, well, they're going to win, and they won 7-1. And then they kicked the shit out of Vegas in a matinee game. And then Monday night, it turned into just a bunch of problems that we'll get into later on in the show in all aspects of the game. Like, the offense looked great, but when your top line goes -3 in the third period, there's a problem.
Yep. Well, there's more than a few problems with last night, but that's one of them. I wouldn't put it on top of the list, but we can get to it. Like, if we're talking about those, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I gotta reconnect here. Hang on a sec. If we're talking about those, I'd like to talk about those 3 games almost as a body of work.
Yeah, let's do that.
When I say that, I mean, you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It looked like our defensive game was like just regressing. Even like it's almost like the Minnesota game. Like they were missing some key pieces that night. And sorry, I'm getting some issues with my audio. But anyways, it just felt like they let the game get away from them a little bit because Minnesota wasn't as tough and out offensively. I mean, they're missing Eriksson Ek and Josh Brodin.
And Brodin on the back end, yeah.
I don't know. I think some bad habits creeped in. I thought we played fairly strong in Vegas, but Vegas had a little more offense or we allowed a little more. We allowed 3 goals. We let them stay in the game longer than we needed to because we weren't cracking down defensively. And then last night, by the middle of the second, after we got a few cherry opportunities, all hell broke loose. I mean, that game was fire wagon hockey in the third period, and we just didn't have what it took to keep up.
Yeah, I saw the first 2 games of these past 3 a little different. I saw the Minnesota game as probably one of their best games of the year, and then the Vegas game, I saw the last 35 minutes be the worst 35 minutes they could have played. Because that game shouldn't have been 6-3, and then the last 35 minutes of that Vegas game, they basically just hung on and went through the motions. And then, you're playing the guys you took to Game 7 last year, the Stanley Cup final. And I'm not going to get into what I want to talk about yet. We'll touch that at the end of the when we get into the players and break them down. But
Well, I know what you want to talk about. Like, so if we're
let's
going to
get
look at
into it
those
now. Let's get into
if
it
we're
now.
going to look at those 3 games as a body of work, like I should qualify what I was going to say. I was initially, before we started, like, it just felt like we were softening up defensively and getting away from our structure. In getting away from our structure in the Vegas game, and that was way more pronounced. And again, it takes some discipline for guys to. Fuck. I'm going to turn my phone off. Sorry about that. Guys are getting away from the system, and it's like it takes discipline, it takes commitment. We've been talking about this all year, or I have anyway. And then the structure breaks down, and you got nothing left. And I mean, last night was a good opportunity to show us that it doesn't matter what happens. You're not always going to outscore the opportunities you give the other team. And it felt like the chickens came home to roost last night. And yeah, like Minnesota, I think Minnesota, it's not like we played poorly defensively, but it gave us an excuse to take our foot off the gas, and that manifested itself against Vegas, and then consequently last night.
Well, if you look at them, if you break down the Minnesota game as a whole, the Oilers, I'm just pulling up the stats here. They had 35 shots on goal, right? And they went 2 for 4 in the power play, which is huge, and they only gave 1 PK goal. They got out hit in that game though, right? So you look at that game they got out hit in. Then you go to the Vegas game, and they got out hit in that game, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just going to double check that, but I'm pretty sure they got out hit in that game as well.
I think it was pretty pronounced, actually, if I recall.
Yeah, they got out hit in both games by almost double, and then last night they got out hit again.
Yeah.
So I'm at the point now where is it because on the defense are taking so many hits that they got hit. The last 3 games they got out hit double in all 3 of them.
The team or the D? They don't break it down by D. Yeah.
They don't break it by player, but
yeah,
you're not laying the body, and like these are our home stats keepers the last 2 games, so they try and favor the home team. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But instead, we're getting out hit, and they're not even always big hits. It's just that little bump to get the guy out of his groove, and we're not doing that. And yeah, we got away with it in the 7-1 game because no one's really hitting after that point. Even the 6-3 Vegas games, the hits they did lay were more saying, "Hey, fuck you, you're beating us," kind of thing. And then Florida just played like they did in Game 7.
Yeah.
They just hit us and hit us and hit us. And I really think now you're seeing where you're missing Evander Kane as a full player. And Florida hasn't seen Evander Kane as a full player yet. So, we don't know when he's back. He could be back in April. It could be back in March. It could be back in June. We don't know. But I think that's the biggest thing with this team is we need to get some more hits.
Yeah, well, I think that speaks to what I was talking about a little bit too, like where like it's commitment, it's commitment to the system, it's commitment to finishing your checks, and if you're that split second late to the puck, or if you're a little bit lazy on the breakout, or whatever the case may be, I mean, I think it all kind of stems from adhering to the system, and yeah, I think based on what you're saying, I think we're going to see a pretty good game on Thursday against Boston. We had today to clean it up. Apparently it was a fast-paced practice, and the boys understand what's required. And I don't actually even mind these little reminders of what it takes and like what happens when you take your foot off the gas.
I can buy that. I can buy what you're selling there.
Yeah, and it goes back to the whole, like that team that starts like a fire wagon and never faces any adversity. Adversity is good as long as you learn from it and you bounce back hard. I mean, hell, Florida did that last night. I mean, they got shut out in 2 games in Vegas and Calgary, and we were going to get their best last night because they're a championship-winning hockey club, and they're not going to let bad habits creep in. And so we got to see the same result from our boys on Thursday against Boston. And I fully expect we will because we're at that point now where it's kind of like second nature, unless you get lazy, right?
So a couple good things that came out of these last 2 games, as I've been talking about for the all year this year, our shooting percentage has climbed up a little bit, and our power play is now 13th in the league. our PK only jumped up 2 more spots, but it's climbing slowly. PK is a little harder to grind up, and you don't take a lot of penalties like the others don't take a lot, except for last night. But I think that had other shit to do with it. Unlike
we almost we'll get to that. Like we almost killed off that Nurse Deuce. They scored in the last like 10 seconds of that,
11
and
seconds ago, yeah.
Yeah, so that was disappointing for the PK group because they put on a good kill. I was disappointed to see that happen because I thought they deserved better. But I mean, and there were other things that happened last night too that impacted the game. Obviously, like Bush had a shitty game. Everybody knows it. He talked about it after the game. The coach talked about it. Media talked about it, and I don't think anyone was too hard on him. Like, I heard an interesting perspective on that today. They were talking about Bush and like where, like this is basically your first shift of the game or your first handful, like 1 or 2 shifts of the game, and you fucking give up. You give up a shorty because you bobble at the blue line, and then right after that, you take a penalty to negate the power play, where you could get that goal back. And I don't care who you are, like that's going to rattle a guy. And if you play rattled, you're not playing with confidence. You're not playing with poise. And maybe you take that extra half second before you make a play because you don't want to fuck up again. So I'm going to get like anybody with half a brain that like Bouchard's a risk reward guy. He always is. He always was. But if he has an absolute like shit to bed game like last night, as long as it doesn't happen too often, you're going to give the guy a pass because some of it is like, you can care too much and you can be afraid of letting the boys down again. And you can fuck up a little bit because, you're worried about making yet another mistake. Right.
But if you watch back, I think it was our episode 4, he had one of these games and the next game he goes out and scores right away on that weird breakaway goal when he looked like an all-world defenseman.
Oh yeah.
10 years ago. I look at this 2 ways. With him regressing defensively right now, and he's not on the point pace he was last year, does this aid the Oilers in contract discussions this offseason?
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely.
I'm like, so it's a double-edged sword. Like, hey, we're still winning. We've climbed the standings. We've turned around. It looks like. So, is it really that bad of a thing? Like, I do want everyone to succeed, but hey, if it saves us $2 million a year on AAV.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
and unless these negotiations with him get too fucky, like it's going to be heavy term. So if you're, and like you might end up paying a little more on term, but yeah, you're right. It might be like less than it might be almost $2 million a year in term or in number in AAV.
yeah.
If the guy didn't come to the table. So, I mean, I love Bouchard, but I'm an Oilers fan. It's the same as if a guy gets traded. Anything they can do to help the team. I mean, $2 million is a solid third, fourth line guy. And if you can have that extra money to pay for that guy to sustain a winning team, yeah, as long as it doesn't cost us too many hockey games, I got no problem with that. Now, do I want him to fuck up? Do I want him to make mistakes? No, but you got to take the good with the bad, right? And that's actually, unfortunately, a positive. I mean, unfortunately for him. Your body of work suffers, and that's what you bring to the table when you're negotiating.
The one problem I had with last night's game was the late period goal in the first period. What's the first? Yeah, it was the first, which kind of puts a damper on things when you're going to the room, and it was because of Nurse's extra 2 from that spineless Kelly Sutherland, but that's another story for later.
Let's fucking get into it.
All right, so.
Well, hang on. So we covered Bouchard pretty much. I think that horse is dead.
Let's talk about Hyman from last night. Let's dig into Hyman before we talk negatives. Let's talk about Hyman, the gamer he is. 2 goals, broken nose, and he is Jewish, so that nose is a little more pronounced.
Yeah, I you know what? Just a world beater. Like I was so impressed. I'm like, that guy's work ethic. He's the energizer buddy. The guy never gives up. Like he's one of those guys that if he didn't have the work ethic he did, there's no way he'd be a top pair or a number one line player in the NHL. No. No, there's no way, and it all comes back to work ethic, character, heart, and he exhibited all those things last night. I mean, with the goals he scored and key goals he scored, like there's always try in his game, and it's nice to see him get rewarded. 7 goals in 6 games since he's been back,
Yeah,
but
he's got 10 goals now in the year, so
yeah. But like, and based on all of those characteristics that he's exhibited since he's been an Oiler, if you told me before the game he's going to take a puck in the nose, what's going to happen? I'm gonna be like, he's going to take it like a rock star. He's going to be back in the game, and that's what happened. Like, just most respect for that guy. There's a reason why I have a Hyman jersey. I just like old school, like all
well,
heart.
and the only game he didn't get a goal and he was plus ones, and they only won that game 2-1. So he was on the ice contributing on that game against Tampa. So you know what? I'll take those stats. He's been back since the 5th. It's the 16th, and that's 11 days, and he's got 7 goals.
Yeah, and I think that thought occurred to me when you were talking earlier about our numbers, our underlying offensive numbers, where you were saying that we were, I don't know, we were scoring like our numbers when you're
Our
summarizing
shooting
that.
percentage has jumped 2%.
Yeah, yeah. So and that kind of brings me to my point where it's like a guy like Hyman, as involved as he is, as dedicated as he is, the first 10, 20 games he had, like there's going to be regression because eventually, those posts and those things, like it's so
they flip the other way. Yep.
Yeah, when you say the shooting percentage and those numbers are going up, well, I'm like, it's almost like half of that is regression because we've been doing the right things offensively. It's just it's going in now, right? At least not everybody, but certainly for a guy like Hyman who's going to bring that number up, right?
But it snowballs, right? One player gets one, the next guy gets one, and I think it's just a snowball effect. Like
Connor Brown, 3 goals in 3 games.
K squared got another one, the waiver pickup that never dies. Tell Arvidsson's back.
Yeah, I want to talk about that later too, for sure.
But yeah, and the one thing I wanted to touch on is like, did you know that Draisaitl was 75% in the draws last night?
Yeah, yeah.
And like the Oilers as a team are 3rd in the league, which is far cry from what it used to be years ago. It used to be really bad. They used to be hovering around, 47, 46, which would put them, with the Flames in 29th out of 32 teams.
Yeah, and I mean that's so important when we talk about things like the PK and the power play. Having guys that you can rely on to win those key faceoffs. I mean, it's easy to overlook, but it's hard. It's hard not to point out the importance of a win and a big faceoff. Like, wow. So yeah, that's another arrow to have in your quiver. Obviously, if you want to win a championship and be a championship team for sure. And it's nice to see the boys coming through on that number.
Well, and just to circle back to Hyman, how about that guy? For those that didn't see the game last night, Bouchard took a shot and deflected off a Panther in front and then broke Hyman's nose. He ended up missing 9 minutes of the second period, was back out for the third, and he was still standing in front of the net.
Yeah, and almost scored. Like
he got his hat trick, which is great.
And that's got to lift everybody up on the bench. Too bad we didn't see it on the ice, but man, what an example for the boys in the locker room.
Big difference there with Hyman. So that was nice to see him come back, and he didn't practice today, but I'm sure he was getting some kind of work done. Maybe.
Yeah, it was a procedure why he missed practice. They said he wasn't in doubt for tomorrow for Thursday. They got a day off tomorrow too. So
you want to talk about practice for a second? Who left the ice early?
Well, I heard that McDavid and Nurse had a collision.
Yeah, and there's been nothing reported since. And McDavid left the ice early, and all that was said was, Dahlbuck said, "Well, I didn't talk to the trainer yet, but it doesn't sound serious. I would have heard by now." Yeah. I still don't like it because the NHL is so secretive, and anytime a player leaves practice early like that, you want to know more.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and McDavid's not leaving because he's got a date. Like he's a guy. He's one of the last guys off always too. So a little bit of concern, but again, luckily we have the day off. I especially last year after the playoffs, like I so worry about those lingering injuries. I mean, we're seeing it with Nurse's play right now. Where you're like, this man is unencumbered by whatever was ailing him, right? So you always worry about those nagging injuries. Where a guy can play, but he's not 100%. So, you hate to think about a sprain or a pull or any kind of ailment that follows a guy for the rest of the season that makes him less effective later on.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about the players here. Just one more thing I always wanted to bring up here that Draisaitl's only 3 back of McKinnon now in the top scorer thing, but he's got 2 less games played. So, I mean, could we see Draisaitl sneak up there, which is I'm all for. Just, you know what, let's talk. And the media is still saying it's all McDavid. Well, when he's scoring even strength, normally it's not. It's not. He's got 18 even strength goals out of his 23.
Yep. Like, and imagine where he'd be if our power play was firing on all cylinders the first 10 or 15 games, right?
Yeah, and now we're climbing in the power play, and he's got,
Yep.
5 power play goals now.
Yeah, like there's no question that Draisaitl's been our best player this year. I would like if the voting's ended tomorrow, he'd be like the clear-cut Hart winner, in my opinion.
I think it'd be Krill. I think it'd be Krill from Minnesota because he's got no one to play with.
Yeah, well, the numbers matter, but I think Draisaitl in the last 5 games, he's been scoring at almost a 3-point a game clip. It's like 2.5. So I reckon that it won't take him long to catch McKinnon if he keeps playing the way he is. And again, we're going to see a better Oiler team on Thursday, and we got a little bit of a soft parade between now and Christmas. So looking forward to seeing Draisaitl continue his run here.
So since Hyman came back, which means they were able to separate McDavid and Draisaitl, Draisaitl has had 2 points, 2 points, 2 points, 4 points, 3 points, 2 points. So it's just under 3 a game. It's like 2.6 probably, if my math is quick enough. But he's doing his job now, and the team's getting that shooting percentage up, which I've been banging the drum on all year, and it's exciting.
And his underlying numbers without McDavid are better than McDavid's underlying numbers without him. Now, he's a world-class player, but like
Draisaitl's not getting first line checking players either.
Oh yeah, no. Listen, I don't want to talk about the whys. Like, I just want to say that, and actually, you're making my point for me, and that's that. Like, imagine your team, and you've got 1/3 line that are checking demons. Well, we have 2 first lines that are populated by the 2 best players in the world. So that certainly makes you a lot harder to check against. That's why. It's tough when we lose 1 by 1 like we did last night. But again, like, I don't want to beat the game last night too hard here over the beat the horse, whatever. But man, that's a suffocating style they play when they got you hemmed in your own zone, and
they give you the neutral zone. You just got to get there.
Yeah, but and then when they have us in our own end and we're there for like a minute or more, I'm just waiting for them to score. Like, those guys are relentless, and they had us hemmed in pretty hard a few times last night, particularly in the third. But I digress. I'm looking forward to seeing a better effort Thursday. So
and I mean, when we're out shooting them, we only outshot them by 2. But I know at one point we were up. I think it was like 22-12, and that's when they got back to even the shots, and that's when the game changed.
Yep.
All right. So
and again,
we've touched on Hyman, Dry, Bush. Let's slide down to Pod Coldson, and let's say a few words about Pod. You wanted to touch on him today, Chris. So
I did. I just love that kid. Stood up for himself, took a hard hit by arguably the toughest guy on their team, and probably even though the heavyweight in the NHL is like a dinosaur now, it would be considered among the NHL's heavyweights, and that kid just stepped right the fuck up. Just so much heart, so much effort. And it's like, I know he's getting his share of assists. He hasn't scored in a while. And I find myself every game just watching him and hoping that he gets a goal or at least a point and gets rewarded for all that work, and I just worry that it doesn't catch up with him, and he I don't know what it is with him. Like, I mean, he's a number 11 overall pick. They don't pick guys with bad hands that high in the draft, and I
10th overall, yeah.
10th, yeah.
I mean,
So like,
I mean, I look at it this way. So over a full season, he would project to be 32 points.
Yeah, like 50 not goals or whatever.
Yeah, it'd only be about 11 goals, but he also started the year for 7 games in the bottom half of the lineup.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's coming around, he's getting his assists, but even like Draisaitl said in that interview last week, it's not about the score sheet. It's what he does at practice, on the ice during games. He's one of the guys that actually hits people. So
Yep.
I think he's found his spot here. You know what? How he couldn't play for Rick Tocchet,
I know.
my
That's the
mind
one
is
thing I don't.
blown.
That's the one thing I was wondering about when we got him. Is like this guy's been playing under Rick Tocchet for the better part of 2 years, and they don't want to keep him. Like, what is he, lazy? Like, is he one of those guys that like doesn't leave it all on the ice? And I'm like, and then you see the kid, and he's a Tocchet player. Like, he's a prototypical Rick Tocchet player. Commitment to
That's
structure, doesn't leave anything off on the ice. Yeah, I'm sorry. Anyway, I'm just like totally impressed with this kid, and it's not even like I expect offense from him, but I'm like literally hopeful every time he steps on the ice that he gets his name on the score sheet.
before this year. So if I take out this year's stats, he's at 137 games played and 35 points. He's already increased that clip by coming to in my opinion, a better team.
Yeah.
And maybe he just grooves better with the team. Like there's no other Russians on the team,
Nope.
but he's just grooving better with the guys in the room. There's not too many young guys on here, so there's a little more in Vancouver, so he knows. Maybe sees Holloway's gone. Who's that other guy we got rid of to Ottawa that he never liked?
Not McLeod.
Raphael Savoy. Raphael Savoy.
Oh no, yeah. Xavier Bourgault went to Ottawa.
Like now he knows I jumped ahead of them out of the prospect pool, so here I am, and he's getting the ice time. Like he's not like last night against Florida, they didn't give him enough ice time, in my opinion, but I think that had to do with the game script. He only played 10 minutes, and before that, he was averaging between 13 and 14 a night. So he played 6 to 8 shifts less last night. I think that could have had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, like I'd say like at least a third of those shifts were because he was in the box for 5. But regardless, he didn't play as much, and Knobloch leaned into the Draisaitl McDavid pairing quite a bit, and it was
Hyman. When Hyman went out, they did that.
Yeah. So the other guys further down the lineup are going to suffer, but like it's going to take a lot to knock him off the second line because Draisaitl likes to play with them, and again. It's a reason why, and I'll roll into Jeff Skinner because I know I said I want to talk about that. Like, it's a reason why, the reason why it's hard to knock him off that chirp on the second line with Draisaitl is the same reason why Jeff Skinner isn't playing in the top 6, and that's because like Draisaitl is a shooter and a playmaker, and you can be both. Yes, he's got about half as many goals as assists, or just as many. And it's he gets him the puck, and he's a puck retriever. He's a dogged puck retriever. He's a guy that's going to battle in the corners, and he's the player type that complements Draisaitl very well. And you throw Jeff Skinner out there with him, who's going to retrieve the pucks that you two want to shoot, right? So that's why it's going to be hard for Jeff Skinner. It's certainly moving on. I heard he practiced the fourth line today. To get time in the top 6, because when you've got all world players that you're playing with, like one of your biggest jobs is feed them the puck, right? And you can't have too many of the same player type on the same line.
What I like about everyone coming back, Arvidsson's coming back either Thursday is a potential day, if not for sure on the weekend. Knobloch said that creates more competition. Because you got Hyman back, you got Arvidsson, you got Pod Colton that's playing up there, Skinner who wants to be up there. So it's creating competition. And then, say Kane comes back in March, more competition. So you're going to get the best out of these guys.
Oh, yeah.
Because when playoff time comes, everyone that's been here, and Jeff Skinner's never been to playoff time, I keep saying, wait till the playoffs, and that guy gets that juice. Say we started home finally in game 1 of round 1, and Skinner gets that juice. Anytime goal, first goal of the game, bet it.
Yeah.
Like legit bet. It's probably plus like 7,500 for Jeff Skinner to get the first goal of the game. You take that bet.
Yeah, and you know what too is we haven't had an 8-game winning streak or 16-game winning streak. I think we just ended 8 or 4 or whatever, 6. Who cares?
5. It was
5. And like I said earlier about adversity, I don't mind it. I don't mind it, especially this time of the year. When we're developing winning habits, and so like, I think we're 3 points out of first in the Pacific, behind Vegas. 5 now, yeah. I think, but this is where we were like at the end of last year, and right now we're just a little over a third of the season in. So we got a lot of time to make up that ground, a lot of time to make mistakes, learn lessons. But keeping the last 10 games in mind, we're developing those habits, and we're going to win way more than we lose. So it's nice to be 5 points out of the first in the division with 52 games left.
So in the last, and you bring up the last 10 games, here's the funny part of the last 10 games. Vegas, the Kings, and the Oilers basically have an identical record, with Vegas losing 1 game in overtime. They're all 8-2, and Vegas is 7-2-1. So we gained 1 point on Vegas in the last 10 games, which is, we beat them, and it was a 4-point game, but that was one of their 2 losses. But I mean, the cream is rising to the top in the Pacific Division, which we knew was going to happen. The Flames are 3-5-2 now. The Canucks are 5-3-2. They just got pounded by Boston on the weekend. So I mean, the shift is happening with the real players saying, you know what, like the Oilers, I hate to say it, but that's a hangover, man. They were done, June 25th?
Yep, 100%.
And then McDavid got married. He got married, which is great. Happy for the guy. But your summer shortened even more. So, I mean, now they're coming around, and they're trying to, maybe they conserved a little bit the first 2 months, saying, hey, we went too hard last offseason in August with those captain skates. Let's just come together naturally. And they are. People are adjusting. So it's been good. Yeah. But as far as Jeff Skinner goes, I think this is going to make him compete more. Him and Perry are the players that are behind Draisaitl, McDavid, and Hyman for the most goals in the team. I mean, there are 4 forwards tied with 6: Perry, Skinner, Nuge, and Brown. And then ahead of that is Hyman, McDavid, and Draisaitl.
Oh, okay.
So so we have 3 players that are 1, 2, 3, which is the power play, and then you have 4 forwards that are, who's gonna, and Nuge's on that power play, and he only has 2 power play goals, and no one else has any. So which one of these guys is gonna be consistent and step up and get to that 15 to 20 goal mark? I don't see it being Corey Perry. I think he's going to rest down the stretch a little more.
Yeah,
I could see it being Connor Brown. I could see it being Skinner just getting on a streak. He gets 7 and 10, and then all of a sudden he's got 13 goals in 41 games played.
Don't sleep on Janmark. He's having a career year right now. And it's got a little stability. It's the first.
You mean Janmark, the second assist merchant?
Yeah.
He's got 1 goal and 12 assists. He's playing great. I'm not knocking him, but I just wanted to be clear on his.
Oh yeah, but you know what? Those aren't like, like his player type. Those second assists. That's where the hard work gets done, right? So fair fucks to him. I think he's a great. He's likely the most underrated player on this team, and I love what he brings every night. But yeah, no. As far as Skinner goes, just to close the book on that tonight. I worry about finding him a spot in the top 6, and I worry that a player of his type won't thrive in the bottom 6. So it's kind of like a square peg round hole thing. Now I read a little bit. I think it was Staples today, talking about Nuge hasn't exactly been lighting it up defensively with his defensive play on the first line, and it's like, it might be time to give Skinner another look, kind of thing. Nuge is way better at puck retrieval though, so I don't know. I really want things to work out for that kid, but it's hard to take an objective look at the lineup and go, how are we going to find that space for him, right? So I don't know, man.
I like having the depth. I really do.
Me too. Don't get me wrong. Yeah.
And I don't think you move Nuge, because we're not even talking about the power play. I don't think you move Nuge off that line, because he skates his ass off, and he's smarter than he was 10 years ago when he came. 12 years ago when he came to the league.
And he was already smart then.
So I think he's good there. All right, so we're gonna get into the big topic of the week. We're gonna Darnell Nurse, and then it'll transition into officiating.
Okay, so just before we do, Tyler, I don't want to forget this. I gave you some notes earlier today, and maybe you've got a spot for it. But when I was talking about, I might have mentioned Arvidsson.
You did not.
Okay. So let's, if you don't, like, I'm going to cover this really quickly, I hope. So since you're the resident IR fucking guy, like I don't understand these stupid CBA rules, okay? And I don't think you do either, but you pretend to. So I'll just take your word for it because you understand it even marginally better than me.
Okay.
But so we got Kapanen. Arvidsson was on the IR.
Correct.
Okay. So Arvidsson, and now the only way that we can accrue LTIR or whatever from Kane is if we carry 2 players, right? Or no?
Okay, so what has to happen is we have to be under the. I'm just going to
Hang
pull
on.
up. I can hear you just fine. You're fine. You're fine. What has to happen is you have to not be an LTIR to accumulate cap space. All right. You're
No, I couldn't hear you. I
I
couldn't
can
hear
hear you
any of
just
that.
fine. All right.
Shit.
So to accumulate cap space, can you hear me now? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me.
Hang on.
Okay, folks.
Oh, I disconnected. That's what happened. Sorry.
Are you ready? Can you hear me? Because this is a speech I prepared for years.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that.
All right. So they never put Arvidsson on LTIR, which would move his cap hit off of the roster, because what they want to do is remain out of that LTIR pool that Kane's money's in. So as of today, they only have 6 D-men up. Remember that, because Regula is a 2-way contract who's still on IR because he was hurt pre-season. So his cap hit's not counting. So as of right now today, they actually have $1.2 million in cap space because they're not carrying a 7th D-man. They're carrying all those forwards. They have the extra one in Arvidsson, and who's on IR, not LTIR like Kane. So right now, if the deadline was today, and this is 60 games up 40 games up the road from where it is today, we would have $3.5 million in deadline cap space. And if Kane was still hurt, we'd have an additional 5.125.
Okay. So Arvidsson coming off the IR doesn't impact cap.
It doesn't impact the salary cap at all.
And so basically, I forgot about the D situation because we've been carrying Dermott like for however many games till we waived him, and Regula is not on the active roster, right?
Exactly.
So Arvidsson slides in, and all it means is that one of Kapanen or whoever else is in the press box, but it doesn't impact our LTIR or cap money.
Correct.
Okay, that's a relief because I was worried about that. Now, so what happens when Arvidsson's back? What do you do?
I think you give Corey Perry a night off, and then you give Derek Ryan a night off.
Yeah, I would, and that's a soft landing. They could use it.
And like you can even say straight up to them, it's not your play. It's just like, we're giving you the night off.
Yeah, and then can we have Boston on Thursday, and then we have Saturday and Sunday games, right? And then it's the Christmas break.
Yeah, San Jose's on. Is it San Jose on?
Yeah, it's Boston, San Jose.
It's Boston, San Jose, Ottawa, and then a 5-day break.
Okay. So actually, speaking of Arvidsson, after practice today, by the way, Knobloch sort of he kind of understated that whole collision and said it wasn't a big deal or whatever. But
I did read that, but they didn't say anything. No one else has reported anything afterwards. It'd be
like
nice
about health or.
Yeah, he's fine. He just.
Yeah. But what he also said is that Hyman's a lock tomorrow. Today was an appointment. He also said that Arvidsson's ready to go, but he hasn't played NHL action and blah blah blah. He said he was our best player on the ice at practice today, but he also said practice is different. Blah blah blah.
I heard the same thing.
Yeah. So you read, and then so for the people out there who haven't, He also said we have 3 games in 4 days, so we'll ease Arvidsson in. So I guess the scenario that you just painted works out perfectly then, where you give Ryan a night off, you give Perry a night off, and like you don't have to worry about too much about loss there because our Kapanen's been playing pretty well. And
yep, and I think it's just nice giving those guys an extra. Well, it's 5-day break, but they're probably not skating 24, 25, 26. They're probably skating the 23 and 27. So, I mean, you give, an extra day off the boots and you tell Perry, don't worry about skating on the 23rd or whatever. So I think I think that's
you
good.
And you don't really disrupt KK anymore either, because you could ease Arvidsson in on the 4th line, taking one of those 2 Perry or Ryan spots, right?
And just give him a breather, just ease him back in. So I think that's the way to go. But let's get into the guy we've been avoiding here, Darnell Nurse, who was playing great, and I don't really blame him for the first penalty because it wasn't a penalty because he didn't move his leg at all and the guy skated over it.
Yep.
And then Kelly Sutherland didn't like being wrong, and then he gives Darnell another 2.
So we're not really talking about Darnell Nurse here. We're talking about Kelly Sutherland, right?
Well, we're talking about.
Or is there something you want to say about Nurse? Because I really want to get after these fucking officials.
Yeah, nothing bad about Nurse. I think the second penalty was his fault, but he was frustrated already. But later in the game.
Yeah, that shiver, whatever. Fairfax, he was frustrated, and nobody goes down faster than Matthew Tkachuk either, or sells it better. So,
the fact that there was no penalties called in the 3rd period blows my mind.
Yeah, a lot of people. I read a lot of comments saying the same thing. But just to finish up with Nurse, he's playing the best hockey of his career right now, in my opinion.
I agree.
And it's really highly needed. Emerson's playing out of his body right now too. Stetcher looks good overall. In fact, our 6D that are on the roster right now haven't left a lot to criticize. But it sure helps when you got a guy like Nurse munching minutes and making the right plays and playing within his game. You know what I mean? Like he's not getting too ambitious with the puck. He's doing all the things that he needs to do right and focusing more on those. So I am really happy to see him doing well, and it's certainly needed when we have a little bit of an experience in the blue line, considering what we lost in the off season. So that's my piece on Nurse.
Well, the 2. Well, I think the D's playing great because the 2 teams ahead of us are spending $8 million more on their defense.
Yeah.
So we're doing the best we can with what we have. But so last night, folks, I'm just going to get into it now and start because we got to get into it. The first penalty on Nurse, he was against the boards and his leg was sticking out, but it did not move at all. Like, did not move. Yeah. And then the Florida player skates into his foot, goes down. They call the trip. And Darnell Nurse gave Sutherland the business. And Sutherland, who's usually pretty thick skin, twos him up for 2 more in a game like this where they know it's the rematch of the Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. And then, of course, Florida. I knew Florida was scoring not in the first 2 minutes. I knew it'd be the second 2 minutes. And, of course, they did with 11 seconds left in the PK. Oh, well,
that pissed me off.
What do you? And then the fact there's no penalties in the 3rd period is just, in that game there was a few in the 3rd period. I was just like, where?
Yeah. So
you go into it because I can add.
Well, I'm going to lean on you a little bit here, T, because like you're a ref, and I know I mentioned it earlier in one of the other episodes, but I was there for Tyler's last retirement game. And like he wasn't reffing Pee Wees over here. He was reffing Junior A here in Alberta. I think we were in Killam, I think. And I saw you skate off the ice being hated by both teams, and you literally didn't give a fuck.
No. Nope.
And actually, I hate to say it because you're gonna run with it, but I gained a lot of respect for you because it wasn't about you. You called the game you did. I don't think you called it too tight. Things were getting out of hand. And sometimes refs think they can control that, but sometimes they can't. It is what it is. But what you said illuminates something really important about this is that we're talking about 2 teams playing each other hard Not too much tomfuckery going on. Nobody taking cheap shots. The game's well within control, and there's no reason for a ref to worry about penalizing someone overtly so that you're calming the game down. And he drops the fucking hammer because the guy chirps him a little bit. And Kelly Sutherland is not like a fucking second, third year, fourth year, fifth year ref. He's been around a long time. Where the fuck does this guy get the balls? Like, is it the Kelly Sutherland show? Can you explain this to me, Tyler?
I just don't understand why he didn't give him what's called a verbal penalty at the start of the second period when he comes back in the ice saying, "Hey, now you've calmed down. Here's what I saw." No, he jumped right into being just. Oh, I would love to know what Nurse said because any of the camera views I saw, you couldn't see it. So obviously it wasn't that bad because no one else has heard it, no one's reported it. So
Well, that's the one thing. That's the one thing that came to mind last night, where all bets are off. It reminded me of Bull Durham when he's arguing with the ump, and he's like, "Say it, say it, say it, cocksucker, fuck."
and like this is a guy that up until this season started had done 1,500 regular season games plus.
Yeah. So like, where did your skin get so thin, or what did he say to you?
Or does he not? Is there some history we don't know about, or what?
Yeah.
So, like, I wish it was like the I think it's the NBA where the officials get interviewed now afterwards. One of the four major ones. It must be the NBA because I know NFL doesn't do it.
Well, it must be because I don't watch the NBA and I don't see him in any of the other games.
And baseball certainly doesn't do it. But yeah, one of them does it now, and they have to answer questions. Well, you know how great that would be for even fans like yourself that you never referee, which I'm not knocking them, but like a guy like me or my friends that I grew up refereeing, hearing their answers would be able for me to explain it to guys that I'm friends with or host a show with like you. It'd be a little easier to explain stuff and be like, hey, here's what he saw. Okay, that makes sense.
But they showed it on TV when Sutherland gave him the deuce, the extra one, and he looked like it was almost personal. I don't know if you saw that.
I did. I was just mad with the Amazon Prime broadcast as a whole.
Oh, that sucks. We can talk about that later if you want.
Yeah, no, but Kelly Sutherland, it was just bad. And then then you have Tim Peel, who on a hot mic said he needed to call the penalty. I think it was Dallas, and then he got fired a week later. And he's defending Kelly Sutherland. Yeah, that's the guy who wanted to defend you, Kelly, is the guy that got fired for admitting he was doing it to make for game management purposes.
Yeah, well, he got chirped by a local media guy, and rightfully too. But that was a fucking poorly called game, and I know
it was awful.
Okay, like in traditional media, you don't wear jerseys. Like you never see a columnist or a local media guy wearing an Oiler jersey in the press box. It's unprofessional. And like obviously, we have an Oiler-based podcast. That's our thing. We're Oiler fans. But I still try to be objective in my analysis, and like I think it's fair to say that was like a very poorly called game. And I mean, like there was another time in the third period when Ekblad had McDavid in the corner, and I don't get too worked up. A guy gets hit or whatever, but McDavid was like for like 10 seconds trying to get his stick away. It looked like he was like starting a lawnmower trying to yank his stick up. The refs watching, no fucking penalty.
And it's disappeared in the third period, and it happened earlier in the period too when he tried to skate through them, and then one guy held on to him for about 9 seconds, and the puck's in the corner already. And I'm like, consistency is all I'm asking for.
Yep, same here.
And we haven't had it since we got McDavid. And maybe his speed is just too much where they don't want to have a team shorthanded for 18 minutes a game.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to call a consistent game with the way this guy gets obstructed. I actually get it. So I'm not going to whine if he doesn't get called every shift, which obviously he doesn't. But it's like, okay, at least call every third fucking infraction on the guy. Like, for fuck's sakes, like, anyway. I don't want to sound like a whiner, but that was one of those games where how many games, like what are we in 30-aught? And we've been covering this team since the season started.
31.
And and this is the first time we brought it up. So we're clearly not whiners over here at TC Sports Talk, folks. That was a bed shitter of a fucking officiated game.
I'm just trying to do something. I just want to correct myself. I've made an error. The Oilers have actually grown their shooting percentage from 32nd in the league up to 20th at 10.2%, and Tampa Bay's first at 14. So we also have the most shots. So that could also do with it.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Like
yeah,
I really like where we're at after 31 games, and I'm looking forward to continued growth of this team. And like I said, that's why I'm not disappointed about a loss like last night. Staying on the officiating, Tyler, I like this. This was during the game when I was fucking watching. I put it on my phone because I wanted to ask you about it tonight. Please fucking explain to me, okay? Like, because I noticed this with like 10 minutes left in the third. So like before it was crunch time. The puck gets iced, okay? Like, we're not talking about there's a race for the puck, okay? Like the other teams, no one's hunting that puck down as it crosses our red line.
Yeah.
And the guy waits till it crosses a red line and waits another minute, a second or two, then he blows the whistle. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, you literally cost us like 3 seconds, right? I mean, okay, maybe the rule book says he's got to call it after it crosses the red line. Fine. But it was way beyond that. And I was noticing that like way before we had the goalie pulled or we were even down a goal. And I'm like, this could matter later on. And it did. When they were icing the puck in the third, when our goalie was pulled, he wants to cross the line. Tweet. Am I overreacting or what the fuck?
I think you're overreacting. Unfortunately, I never actually did a lot of work as a linesman. I was mostly the referee for most of my 18 years. So I don't like to comment on linesmen's abilities because they had my back in most situations.
Okay.
I'll bury referees, but I won't bury linesmen.
Okay, well, fair fucks to you. Like, I admire your loyalty, but I got to tell you, like, let me ask you this: did you notice that at all?
No, I wait for it to cross the red line, and there's a 2-second delay before the whistle gets to your mouth. It is what it is.
All right, for those of you watching, keep an eye on that shit, okay? Because I'm asking, like, I noticed.
You want to talk about offside? You want to talk about offside? Something about offsides a little bit.
Like, all I'm gonna say about the icing is, like, I notice, like, I'm observant enough that I notice shit that's not, like that seems a little out of the ordinary. And last night it felt like we were getting slow whistles on the icing, and I'm not saying that I'm right, but all I'm asking is, like, keep an eye on that, folks, between now and our next broadcast, and we'll see whether or not I'm full of shit or I'm self-deluded or whatever. Like, and I don't mind admitting it if I am, but honestly, like, if it had happened before, I know I would have noticed it. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I've seen it before. That's why I'm not too concerned about it. So.
Okay, well, fuck that. Like, that bothered me almost as much as asshole of the week, Kelly Sutherland. So.
Oh. I just want to be like, I don't get how after the second period and all the shit at every net in the first 2 periods, there's no penalties in the third period, but there's 4 goals.
Yep.
Like, shit was going on. They weren't playing clean, and I think I want to bang down the consistency drum, So in going there, I guess you already spoiled the goods, but your asshole of the week nominee is Kelly Sutherland.
Yep.
I can live with that. I'll give you this week's.
Yeah, we got to keep it within the sports realm. I mean, there are a few other assholes this week, but I'm sure they'll continue to be assholes and they'll give us other opportunities further down the line here.
Definitely talk about. So, yeah. Seeing as we're right before Christmas here, I wanted to touch on the World Juniors and maybe some memories or thoughts of what you look forward to about Christmas time and that tournament. I know I always look forward to it, and I remember back when we used to be over in Europe more, and they actually started playing on Christmas Day. I always remember opening gifts first, and then there'd be like a noon game or a 10 a.m. game, and then me and my dad would watch it. Always, that was the best. It'd start on Christmas Day. You'd watch a game, then you go to grandma's for dinner with 50 other Ukrainians. We'd have a party.
What's your record for pierogies?
62 in one sitting.
Yeah, like if anybody has surpassed that, like you get a free spot on the show. Like Tyler, if you don't mind me saying, because I'd love to hear that fucking story.
I could eat more. I just don't want to.
Yeah, well, that's good. It's better for your health. I think I talked earlier about your diet.
But yeah, no,
you can't take
back to Christmas in the World Juniors, away from Tyler's eating. Yeah, let's get away from Tyler's eating. But I really enjoy it. This year I'm fortunate that I'm off every day that Canada does or could play, including the final on the 6th of January. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a nice, relaxing time. And Canada right now is the favorite on paper, but it's juniors. Anything can happen. It's not
Where
a
is it
long
this year?
The out east, somewhere in Canada.
Right. Okay. And for Oiler fans out there, Bo Aki.
Yeah.
Bo Aki's made the team. I don't know where he's going to slot in, but he looked good during camp. Oh no, he didn't play.
He didn't play.
Sam O'Reilly. Yeah, he was injured. That's a good bounce back for a kid that might have been drafted a little bit below where he was ranked. So looking forward to seeing more of him, and hopefully he gets a regular spot on that.
And the thing is, you'll focus on if he gets any kind of if he is, but if you get, it'll be all over TSN. They'll show lots of him and rock and roll with it. So
yeah, good.
What about you, Chris? What are your Christmas thoughts?
World Junior for sure.
Ideas,
always
World Juniors. What do you do to?
Pardon me? Sorry, you cracked up a bit there. Uh-oh. Just give me a sec.
I'm here. Don't worry.
Okay. Yeah, come on, tell us. I don't think it's me. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay. So anyway, sorry. What did you say?
I just asked about you. You said it all, man. I was just checking into what you thought about Christmas. I just wanted to be, nice to you at the end of the show since it's the holiday season.
Well, it's a nice break. We usually go out to Jasper every second year, my family and I, but not this year. So I'm gonna miss Jasper a little bit, but going skiing on the 3rd and 4th in Banff. But all the best to the folks out in Jasper. Hopefully everything's going well and the tourists show up. Sadly, I won't be one of them, but just looking forward to the holiday season, spending time with family and friends. Like all the important stuff. Do you want to leave that? Yeah, we could talk about that maybe. I'm gonna drop a kernel for.
We'll talk off air.
What?
Yeah, we'll drop some stuff on the socials and let you know what our next show is. We're having some kind of technical glitch here, folks. So we're gonna say Merry Christmas to everyone and look for our socials, and we'll let you know what our next episode is. We might try and sneak one in before the new year.
Yeah, it'd be nice to do an in-game something or whatever, but just for us. So we'll see. Merry Christmas, buddy. Love you, kid.
Merry Christmas.
And for all those of you out there who've been supporting us, we really appreciate it. We have fun every week, and we're glad for all the people that have dropped us comments and told us how much they support us. Couldn't thank you enough, and looking forward to this next string of Oiler games.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Take care.
I wanna dance with you.